Okay, I started the recording. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, when I first started working here about 12 years ago, we only had one promise, and that was a $1,000 EFC reduction. Let me start with what EFC stands for. EFC is the expected family contribution. That's the minimum the government expects a family to pay before they qualify for aid. That's called EFC, or expected family contribution. The minimum the government expects a family to pay before they qualify for financial aid. Our contract only offered a $1,000 EFC reduction. Or if we were not able to offer a $1,000 EFC reduction, the family was just walking away. That really didn't work too well. Additionally, when we went to present this to guidance counselors, the guidance counselor would tell me that they already handled it and they didn't want to deal with anybody else doing a presentation. Well, after working here for 2 years, I came up with the 10 or 11 points of the promise here, and I'm going to go through them with you now. Number one, we develop a sample student profile report. It's an 80 to 90-page report going through all the information a family could actually require in order to qualify and get into colleges. It actually starts in 10th grade. When we talk about short-term college planning, we don't really talk about planning for just the senior year of high school. We talk about starting the planning in the sophomore year. That way, if the student doesn't have good grades, they can bring them up. Also, it makes the family aware of the SAT and ACT that need to be completed. And it helps the students set their sight on their goals for when they graduate college, well, for when they go into college and when they graduate college. We found that guidance counselors, even if we give them the student profile report, the guidance counselors don't know how to review it. Next, we show the family their ability to qualify for financial aid by showing them what their expected family contribution is. We are not going to be able to help everybody reduce their EFC, but the idea is to give the family the understanding of what their expected family contribution is and why. We also file the FAFSA for the family for all 4 years the student is in college, as well as filing the CSS profile. The CSS profile is short for College Scholarship Service. The CSS profile is required by 400 schools in the nation. They are the better schools out there, and those are the schools that provide the greatest amount of remaining need. So let me go back to the formula. So we have the expected family contribution, which is what the government expects a family to pay before they qualify for aid. Then we have what's called the cost of attendance, or COA. The cost of attendance is tuition, fees, room, and board. Now, the financial aid formula is you take the cost of attendance, you subtract the expected family contribution, and you're left with a number called remaining need. The better schools in the country require the CSS profile, and those are the schools that typically provide 80 to 100% of remaining need. We provide that to the family. I would challenge the family to actually find a source where they can find out all the remaining need provided by every college out there. We have our database. We're up to 400,000 schools are in the database, and we can find out which schools provide the greatest amount of remaining need. The CSS profile is not a very easy form to file. We do require a one-time fee of $225 to file the CSS profile, as well as $52.50 each year thereafterwards. Many of the schools do not even require a filing after the first year. If the family chooses to file the CSS profile themselves, we are not mean about it. We will absolutely take phone calls and answer questions that the family has. But typically it's 10 phone calls and 3 days later, and the family is sending us their $225 authorization to file the CSS profile. Now, either way, if a family chooses to file it themselves or if we file it, they have to pay the College Board $9 to register and $16 per school. Those will be charged directly by the College Board. Families will not be surprised when you talk to them about the College Board, because in order to sign up for the SATs, they can only sign up through the College Board. And they'll be aware that the College Board does charge registration fees and fees to send it to various schools, and that's just the SAT. It also has to do with the CSS profile as well. We provide the college search. That's what I was talking about just before, about families understanding what schools provide the greatest amount of remaining need. What we do is if a student typically students only put between 3, 4, and 5 schools on their list of colleges that they're looking for information about. We'll provide up to a total of 9. If a student changes their mind because they understand expected family contribution, at that point, we can rerun a report because suddenly the student now knows the type of school they want to go to, whether it's public or private. They know what they want to major in, and they know where they want to go to college. We can rerun the report electronically at no extra charge. It's amazing how you see some students are in love with some schools, but after you show them the college search, how suddenly they fall in love with other schools. What else we do is we provide you with a critique of the essays. We do not write essays. Companies that charge to write essays typically charge between $1,000 and $3,000 to write the essay. What we do is we will critique the essay and show the student what is that they're lacking and what looks good so that they can concentrate on that. We have a 5 to 6 page instructions in the sample report, or in the student profile report, showing them what they need to do in order to make their essay shine. Once students apply to colleges and they're accepted, they will receive a financial aid package from the school. I don't know if you're aware of the FAFSA being able to be filed in October of this year, but there are many schools that are sending out financial aid packages now. Please be aware, though, that many schools don't have the acceptance deadline until May. So the family does not have to jump on the very first offer they receive. They can wait until they get more. We ask them to send their financial aid packages to us to evaluate, so we can see if they're getting a good aid package or not. I'll go more over that later. We also provide the family with an SAT and or ACT study guide with software as part of our program. A student can spend $800, or the parents can spend $800 and have the student go to one of these SAT or ACT Kaplan-sponsored courses. But the bottom line is that the student must want to get the good grades. If the student wants to practice, they're going to practice. If they don't want to practice, they are not going to practice. We light a fire under the student, showing them what schools expect them to have before they're accepted to the schools. Once again, this should start in 10th grade, so the students know that they should start taking their exams starting in the sophomore year, if not the junior year and senior year. We also provide access to software called Kuder Navigator, Kuder. The Kuder Navigator is an online program which tests the aptitude of a student, in other words, seeing what the student's good at, and also going by another questionnaire which shows the student what they like to do. It combines both those aptitude tests together to show the student what they should be majoring in and what career they should be concentrating on. Next, families are going to be required to take out parent loan for undergraduate students. Now, schools offer aid packages to the students, and they offer the parent loan for undergraduate students, which is called the GAP loan. That's the difference between the EFC and the remaining need. Typically, they offer good aid packages, but if a family is not satisfied with what's being offered in regards to the parent loan for undergraduate students, we provide them with phone numbers and web addresses of lenders out there that are very competitive, because everybody wants to be the holder of a parent loan for undergraduate students because it's more money in the bank's pocket. And we can show families how they might be able to save thousands of dollars in interest costs just because we show them where they should be going. Next, we provide the half-hour one-on-one consultation. When I say we, I mean you. We're going to go over every report with you necessary until you're comfortable with the program. You'll be explaining to the family what they're required to do in order to qualify for as much financial aid as possible. And finally, we provide a toll-free number for the families and for you to call us if they have any questions. I've saved families thousands upon thousands of dollars just by answering one or two key questions that they have. Now let me go through these again with you, okay? Because I want to go through what the guidance counselor does cover and what the guidance counselor does not cover. So number one, the guidance counselor cannot provide the student profile report. I'd like to ask you how much you think just having the information on what colleges and universities are going to provide, as well as their eligibility for financial aid, how much that's worth for the family. When you're dealing with parents who are working full-time, they don't have a chance to actually go to the bookstores, surf online, get their email address on hundreds of websites, so they're going through tons of spam. We help them to avoid that issue by providing them with all the information they need in our report. Once again, if you know what your expected family contribution is, at least you're not flying blind. You'll know what it is and what it can be reduced by if possible. That could be worth thousands of dollars. We file the FAFSA and CSS profile reports for them. These will be worth thousands of dollars because parents don't really know how much information they should be providing or should not be providing to the College Board and to financial aid for FAFSA. I ran into a gentleman who was overly honest with his FAFSA. He put down $200,000 as an additional real estate aspect of his application, and it turns out he only owed $75,000 on it. I was able to reduce his cost for college by $7,000 per year. In our college search, we show students the fact that even if they go to a private school, it could possibly cost them less than if they went to a public school. I will show you that as well as we move on. Now, there are college counselors out there that charge $180 per hour to go through this financial aid issues. If the family spends 10 hours with a financial aid advisor, they're basically spending $1,800 to begin with. So our fees are very competitive. If the student wants to get into a very good school, they have to write a very good essay. Like I said, people who write essays for students typically charge between $1,000 and $3,000 for it. In regards to the negotiations, I've helped families get between $3,000, $4,000, even $8,000 or $10,000 more in financial aid because we know what to ask for. We have software that actually writes the letter for the family. Very politically correct and very to the point. Once again, if a student wants to improve their test scores, they can use our Kaplan software and practice study guide to increase what their scores are. The better the scores, the better the schools they get into, the more financial aid they qualify for. Once again, I will touch on Cooter later on in the training. Cooter is very accurate. I've actually done Cooter on myself, and it called me out. I've actually tried Cooter on a few girlfriends just to see how they qualify. You might want to try it yourself. When I'm talking about these loan companies out there, some of these loan companies will actually offer you consolidation of the loans after graduation, or consolidation of the loans while the kid is still in college. They can offer up to a 1% interest rate reduction. And when we're looking at $150,000 worth of debt, 1% is an awful lot of money. I know this sounds overwhelming. That's why we provide the the hour review of every report with you until you are comfortable with reviewing reports for families. Almost every family is different, but we're not just going to throw you out there to deal with it. We're going to go over each report with you.
4 years ago?
And this is what you'll find of most value is the fact that we have the toll-free number where you can call up at any point in time to have your financial aid offers or have your financial aid questions answered. What I just went through with you is the actual promise. This is the promise. These are the 11 points that we provide for $16.95. I've helped individual families on any one of these points save $1,000, if not $1,600. I also want to put $1,695 into perspective. If you take $1,695 and you divide it by a $40,000 a year school, or $160,000, you will notice that our report is about 1% of the total out-of-pocket cost for colleges. It's literally a drop in the bucket. Also, if we can help the student find the colleges they'd rather go to or like to go to, and they can cut out the colleges they don't want to go to, they can probably save themselves tons of money on visiting the schools. Many families like to go visit the colleges and universities that the student is interested in. When you take the student, two parents, and probably a sibling along, you're looking at about $1,000 per visit. So if we can save the family, if we can cut out one or two colleges that they don't have to go to, we can save them thousands of dollars right then and there. So please become familiar with the 11 points of the promise, and once again understand that this is the actual contract.
Steve, can we ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, I didn't quite understand on the promise. When you went back through it, are you telling me that the guidance counselor will not provide any of these points?
Did you hear him?
They cannot. They don't really have the wherewithal. Typically the guidance counselors help the best students and the worst students. It's the ones in the middle that don't get the help. I would challenge a guidance counselor to go through a financial aid package when the student's a sophomore in high school. When the student's a sophomore in college. I would like to see the guidance counselor in high school help the student to evaluate that aid package. I would like to see a guidance counselor help the student file their FAFSA every year the student's in college. I would challenge them to actually do an analysis of each and every school the student is looking to go to. So these are issues that guidance counselors cannot control. I taught for 5 years, and I often tried to help the guidance counselor in the senior year help the students file their FAFSAs, and all I was instructed to do was to help the students to get online, and that was it. Not to give any other information. And I was seeing EFCs, or expected family contributions, of $3,000 to $5,000, knowing that these kids could go to better schools. But it was never introduced to them. So all of them were applying to state colleges and local community colleges, whereas they could have been applying to the better schools and getting financial aid. I have seen families going to University of Notre Dame, or a student going to University of Notre Dame, with $62,000 a year school, for $6,000. The University of Notre Dame came up with the rest of it. I saw another aid package this year from Vassar, which is another $62,000 a year school, where the parents were required to pay $10,000, and Vassar came up with the $52,000. Of course, I would like to see a guidance counselor evaluate an aid package. They're probably still paying off loans themselves. Okay, now from here on out, I'll be going.
We've got one more question for you, Steve.
Sure.
So when you say a kid can you have a kid going to Notre Dame for $6,000, what does that mean exactly? Did they get a loan for the rest of it? Did they get scholarships, grants? Is there only out of pocket $6,000?
It's $6,000. Then there will be $5,500 in student loans, and the rest will be in grants and gift aid.
Grants and what?
Gift aid. Endowments.
Gift aid? Is that what you said?
Endowments.
Okay.
So this is where you have the list of all the places that have these type of programs, correct?
Exactly.
So you try to help them go out and find money in addition. Fair?
You don't look for outside scholarships. Typically, it's up to the merit of the student and extracurriculars of the student to get them more money. Typically, though, the money is based on merit. We do not look for outside scholarships because any company that charges for outside scholarships is a scam.
Can you repeat that again?
Companies that ask you to pay them for scholarships are scam companies.
In other words, people that are charging to go get you the scholarship are scam companies.
That is correct.
So what you do, this is all in your package of $16.95. You do all of this, and you help them get that, but that's just part of the program, right?
That's part of the program. The money that we look for is monies from the school.
Okay.
And it really is based on SAT and ACT scores. The student must excel in SAT and ACT scores and have a very good GPA in high school in order to get accepted to these schools and get all the merit-based aid necessary. But that's why we want to start this program in 10th grade of high school, so the students know what they have to do in high school in order to get into these better schools. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go on to the sample student profile report, which is on my screen now, which should be on your screen now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is the first page of the report. It is a disclosure saying to the family that we are in no way responsible for making recommendations. The numbers that we come up with in this report are from the numbers that the families provided to us and the U.S. Department of Education needs analysis formula. The person reviewing the report with you might be a registered representative or might be an insurance or annuity agent. But when they're explaining the report to the family, they're acting as a college counselor or a senior college advisor. If you want to be sure, have them sign and date the bottom. The next page of our report just explains to families that we try our hardest to get the cost of the schools right on target, but schools vary with how they charge. They might charge per semester, they might charge per year. We attempt to have our costs be no more than 6 months old. But if the school has changed their prices, that's the bottom line. The school has changed their prices. Okay, I went over the CSS profile and FAFSA filing with you earlier, but this is just a recap. We will file the FAFSA and CSS profiles for the student every year the student is an undergraduate. That doesn't matter if they spend 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, or 8 years in college. We will file as long as they are an undergraduate. The FAFSA filing is free, but the CSS profile is a one-time charge of $225 plus $52.50 each year, as well as they have to pay the registration fees and the college fees to send it to the schools. Like I said, the FAFSA will be filed every year at no additional charge. However, if the student's GPA drops below 2.0, it's a waste of time to file the FAFSA because the student will not qualify for any financial aid. Here,
Could you repeat that again?
Back up and say that again.
if a student has less than a 2.0, they will not qualify for financial aid. They'll most likely be kicked out of school anyway. These next two pages are not numbered. There's pages 4 and 5 that we need. We need pages 4 and 5 in order for us to file the FAFSA for you. Obviously, page 4 is for first-time filers. That's going to be you guys. We need this page and page 5, the next page, along with pages 1-8-2 through 1-8-6 of this report. I'm going to go over it later so it'll be more clear. But we require pages 4 and 5 of this report, plus pages 1-8-2 through 1-8-6 of the same report in order to file the FAFSA. But just so you know, that since the FAFSA can be filed as early as October this year, what we will do for existing students is we will send them a letter at the end of September asking them to get us their information so that we can file all their FAFSA stuff by October. If they get it to us in October, we will file it by November. If they get it to us after November, we will have it filed 10 business days after receipt. But the families will receive a letter in the mail asking them to provide us with their updated information. However, you folks are going to be sending us pages 4 and 5. Page 4 is here, and this is page 5, to file the FAFSA, along with pages 1-8-2 through 1-8-6. Like I said, I'll go over those later on. Okay, now these pages start with numbers. I'm on page 7 of the PDF, or it's page 1-1-1 of the report. We want the family to take advantage of our service starting in 10th grade. If they start in 10th grade, like I said earlier, they'll be able to get the proper grade, proper GPA, and good scores on their SATs or ACTs, so they'll be accepted to the school that they want to go to. They paid $16.95 for our program. It is in their best interest to follow the guidelines that we provide on page 1-1-1 to take a complete advantage of what we provide. Now, some of this you should not have to go over with the family. It should be up to them to read. But basically, the reason why we come up with this program is because there are a number of factors that affect what a student is going to be required to get in regards to being accepted to the schools they're looking for. So the financial aid, yes, it has to do with parent and student income, parent and student assets, family size, if they're married or not married, if the student's a good student or not, what they have on their SAT or ACT scores, and what sports or special abilities they have. All of these are aspects of being accepted into college and being able to afford to go. I like this page because it sort of shows what the family is going through. Number one, when they're applying to schools, they're going to be invited to come and visit the schools. The admissions placement directors are people who are salesmen for the schools. They want to get as many students in as they possibly can. They're going to show the students the best dining halls, the best dormitories, the best lecture halls. They want the students to become enamored with the college. Once they see the admissions placement director, they're going to be asked if they want to speak with a financial aid officer. Please understand, we put if you decide to speak with a financial aid officer, not speak with a financial aid officer, because financial aid officers are business people. They want to get as many students in as possible with the least amount of financial aid offered per student. The more students, the greater the income of the school. So, questions for the financial aid officer. This is a question I love asking. We answer that question for every school the student has picked. What is the average percent of remaining need met? I spent my first 2 years here talking to financial aid officers, and I would ask them the same question. What is the percentage of remaining need met? And I'll be asked for the question right back. What is remaining need? Oftentimes, the people that you speak with at the financial aid office are actually employed for federal work study money. They don't really know what they're doing. They're just pointed in the right direction and said to go get them. But if you back a financial aid officer against the wall, they're forced to give you all the information they have. What we recommend is that the family actually wait to get the aid packages from the school to send them to us for us to evaluate before we go any further. Once again, why plan for college? In California, I believe they say it costs about $1 million to send the child to school now, from birth to graduation from college. College is going to be one of the most expensive things that happen to a family. We would be surprised if a student's parents, when the student graduates, have $150,000 or more in debt, depending on the number of students going to college. Page 1-2-3 has to do with the Cooter Navigator. Cooter has been around about 20 years. They've helped over 1.25 million students understand what they want to do in college. But one of the reasons why students spend more than 4 years in college is because they don't pick the right major. Just so you know, 50% of students do not graduate in 4 years. That's 50. 50% of students do not graduate in 4 years. And the average student graduates in 5.8 years. The Cooter Navigator is designed to help the student go into college knowing what they want to major in, helps them through college, and helps them write resumes and professional letters after college to get into their employment that they qualify to work. Once again, it is 2 aptitude tests, one showing the student what they like and the other student showing what they're good at. This is available for individual purchase. The problem is that people don't even know about it. If you were to try to sign up as an administrator to Cooter, they will turn you down. You have to be helping hundreds or thousands of students every year before they allow you to license out their program. I recommend you push this on the family, that they make full use of the system. The less time they spend in college, the less money they're going to spend on college. If you're thinking you're getting a good deal by sending a child to a school that only half the kids graduate in 4 years, you're most likely going to be spending more money on tuition than you would if you sent a child to a school that the student graduates in 4 years. I'll go over those numbers in a little bit. Once again, we provide another timeline. Parents don't know that they should be starting in the sophomore year of high school. They just don't know it. For you, in order to reposition, which I will get to in a little while, you want to reposition assets by December 31st of the sophomore year, because if they're doing a one-year look back now to the junior year, if you have to make repositionings and you show capital gains, you want to show in your sophomore year and not in your junior year, because if you show it in your junior year, it will add on to your capital gains, which will add on to your expected family contribution, which will increase your EFC. I'm not going to beat you over the head with the ACT versus the SAT. I'd rather let the student and the parents look through this with their own pace to decide what decide what tests they should take. For example, the SAT only requires up to algebra with no science, but the ACT requires some science questions and trigonometry. You see, there's a lot of information on the SAT and the ACT in here. It would take you hours to go through with the family. Okay, now we're on to negotiating financial aid packages. A lot of parents don't know how to read a financial aid package. We know how to read them. We can evaluate financial aid packages in 10-15 minutes. We know when a school is offering the proper amount of financial aid and when they're not. Oftentimes, schools do come up with the right amount of average aid. If they come up with above average aid package, we're going to congratulate the student and tell them to stick with the aid package they received. The reason why we don't ask for reevaluation with students who are receiving more than the above average aid package is that I've seen families actually lose money when they request a reevaluation if a school has over-awarded. We don't want that to happen. However, if there's a below average aid package, we can evaluate it, and as I said, we can draft up a letter from our software stating exactly what the school is providing and exactly what the school needs to provide, and we ask specifically where it should come from. The only time I've seen a student not get more aid is if a student is lucky to get in by the skin of their teeth. Had one student, the parent sent me the aid package, I sent a letter to the school actually called the parent and advised the parent that they would love to give the student more scholarship money, but the student only scored a 20 on their ACTs, and the school is looking for a 21 or higher before the student will qualify for any merit-based aid. So if the student's lucky to get into the school, they might not receive as much aid as a student who's qualified to get into that school. What we do want, though, is we want the student to apply to 6 to 10 schools. That is a minimum of 2 REACH schools. That's 2 schools they hope to get into but aren't sure of. 2 schools that they know they're going to get into. And 2 schools that if they get the worst amount of senioritis possible, they're still going to be able to go to. If we can evaluate 6 or more aid packages, when the student goes to that school, the student's going to be knowing that it's a school of their choice and that they're getting offered the proper amount of financial aid. We tell students to avoid early admissions programs. Early admissions programs are where the student says they will only apply to that one school, and if they're accepted, they will actually only go to that school, and they will not request reevaluation. That's called early admissions, early acceptance, or early decision, or early action. Anytime you see early, you want to make sure that the student's not signing that they will definitely go to that school and they will not request reevaluation. I'm not going to go through the college essay format with styling guide and tips, because this is what the students should be looking at. Colleges don't just look at a student's creativity when the student's writing an essay or their thoroughness. They look at everything. They look at if the student can follow directions. They look to see if the student can keep a train of thought. Oftentimes I run into essays where I just have to tell the student that they have to concentrate on getting the format of their essay correct before they start writing it. Okay, now we get into the nitty-gritty.
Hold on one second.
Yes.
So the report that we're going through, is this what they get for $16.95 plus a half hour of conversation with somebody?
Yes, it's more like an hour. This is what they get, and it's more than just a half hour. It turns into, basically, we develop a relationship with the family that has questions.
And are they free to call you anytime?
At any time. And you are too.
Okay.
We're basically hand holders. I get a lot of people calling up saying they're so nervous they don't know what to do. It basically takes us to put our arm over their shoulders and tell them, it's okay, Slugger, we're going to help you through it. Now, when the parents are filling out the questionnaire, oftentimes they balk because they feel that they don't have enough information. We just want the parents to ballpark their financial figures when they're first filling out the questionnaire, because when all is said and done, we'll know exactly how much they have. We'll know exactly where it is.
Right.
So when we first start out, we're on page 1-3-1 or page 27 of the student report. This is information that the parents put down. This is stuff that we took from their questionnaire. But we let them know that if there's any fraudulent or misleading information, there could be fines of $20,000, prison, or both. Oftentimes, parents don't know what an UGMA is. They don't know if it goes in the parent's name or the student's name. They don't know if a trust is counted or not counted. I've had many families tell me that trusts are not counted. Trusts are counted. It depends on how they're worded, but odds are a trust is counted, especially if the word education is in the trust will be counted. I have yet to see an attorney or a CPA write me a letter telling me verbatim that the assets are not counted that are in trusts or annuities, that are in trusts. If it's in a trust, it will be counted. And if it's revocable or irrevocable, it's a different story. You can change the beneficiary, you can change the owner, or you can change who owns it, you can change who's a trustee. But we have to address those as time goes on. But the main issue I see is the parents getting the UGMAs confused with confused, and the parents putting it under their own name. Now I'm going to go through how things are assessed now. There are two methodologies that are used in assessment. One is called the federal methodology. The federal methodology requires the filing of the FAFSA. I'm going to tell you what the FAFSA does and does not count. The FAFSA does not count the equity in your primary residence. It does not count existing retirement money. It does not count.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt. What was the $200 you said? For filing? Is that what it was?
For filing it erroneously, you mean?
I just heard you mention something costs $200, and I thought you said that was the filing fee, or I missed what you said about that. I'm sorry.
I don't recall me saying The $200 is a $20,000 fine if there's misleading or false
Maybe.
information.
Maybe that's what it was. Okay.
Okay, and
Okay.
now you're starting, okay, go ahead and repeat what you just shared.
Right. If there's misleading or false
How about what doesn't count?
if there's misleading or false information, it can be a $20,000 fine, prison, or both, and a definite loss of financial aid. So we're telling the parents to be totally honest with us. Now, what is not counted in the federal methodology is the equity in your primary residence. Existing.
Okay, are you walking through an actual case here?
This is a sample case.
Okay, thank you.
So, but the retirement savings of 2,000, is that what's counted, or is that what somebody actually has? That they said they have 2,000. Who has that?
Where is the 2,000 coming from?
Non-taxable income benefits right there.
Non-taxable income benefits.
Well, that's what
retirement
retirement.
savings.
Yes, those retirement savings are not counted.
Oh, but okay. How do we know that?
Is that income, or is that, you're telling me they got $2,000 in their account?
In this case, the retirement savings, that's a contribution. I'll get to the contribution in a moment, but that is a
Okay.
contribution.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll get to the income in a moment. So
Okay.
existing retirement savings are not counted. That's IRAs, 401ks. Those are not counted. Annuities are not counted, and tax and cash value of life insurance are not counted.
Actually, I have life insurance.
If you own a company
Cash value.
with less than 100 employees, that's not counted as an asset.
I didn't get that.
What's that? Will you repeat that again?
If you have a company with less than 100 employees, it is not counted as an asset.
Less than 100 employees. Correct?
Okay. Non-custodial parents' income and assets are not counted.
What was that?
Non-custodial parents' income and assets are not counted.
Custodial parents.
Non-custodial.
Like if somebody's divorced and they don't have custody, is that what you're talking about?
If they're non-custodial parents, if they don't have custody of the child, their income and assets are not counted in the federal methodology.
Okay, got
Okay.
that.
All right, so that has to do with assets. Now let's talk about income. And I just want to make sure that you got that cash value of life insurance and annuities are not counted. Did you get that?
Got it.
Right.
Okay. Income on parents. I'm going to give you a little bit of a guideline here, okay? Parents who earn $30,000 or less have an expected family contribution from income of 0. Parents who earn $50,000 have an expected family contribution or EFC of around $6,000. Parents who have an AGI or an income of $100,000 have an EFC of around $15,000. Parents with $150,000 have an EFC somewhere around $20,000 to $25,000. More like $20,000. Parents who earn $200,000 a year will have an EFC of around $30,000 to $35,000. Parents who have an AGI of around $250,000 will have an EFC somewhere around $50,000 to $60,000. Please understand that if you run into somebody who earns $250,000 a year and they have an EFC of $50,000 and they're expecting their child to go to one of these good schools that cost $60,000 to $70,000 a year, they're still going to qualify for financial aid. Now that was with parents with W-2 income. If they make more, it depends. It depends on the situation. Any monies that the parents contribute to retirement while their kids are going to college is added on to their income.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Any monies that parents put into retirement while the kids are in college is added right onto income, and it increases their expected family contribution by 47% of that income, of that contribution.
So, Steve, is there a document that has all this? That's a lot of information to kind of retain. Is there some kind of review?
It's in the training manual, but I'm trying to condense the training manual down for you.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'll be around anytime.
But you have all that. You have all that in writing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, just real quick on the $50,000 AGI, what was the EFT on that?
6,000.
2,000.
Now these are all ballpark numbers because we don't know what they're contributing to their retirement. We don't know if they're receiving child support. We don't know if they're receiving money from other sources.
Right.
But let's just say a parent contributes $15,000 towards their retirement. Their EFC is going to go 47% of that $15,000 contribution.
So it's not wise to put money away in the retirement plan.
The government wants you to pay, right, the government does not want you saving money or actually even taking money out of your retirement while your kids are in college. Any distributions from pensions are added onto income as well.
Suppose it's an annuity that's not a retirement account.
It's a non-qualified annuity. It's not qualified.
Now, there's a thing about the non-custodial parent that I have to mention. There's a worksheet on the FAFSA which asks the question, monies received, I'm saying this slowly so in case you want to write it down, monies received or bills paid on your behalf not mentioned elsewhere in this form. I'm going to repeat that. Monies received or bills paid on your behalf not mentioned elsewhere in this form. That's only on the student side. That is where they're counting the income of the student. So if the grandfather, let's say they're taking money out of, let's say the non-custodial parent is paying money for car insurance or car repairs or phone bills or anything that are outside payments is added onto the student's income. Let's say a grandparent takes $4,000 out of a 529 to pay some bills for the student. That's added on to student's income. Students are only allowed to earn $6,400 a year before they're assessed.
How much?
6,420 actually.
Generous. Always arcane rules.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
I was looking at this, and it says that the rate, like parents' treasury bills, T-bills, are assessed at 5.65%. What does that mean?
The parents have an asset protection allowance. That's a certain amount of money they're allowed to have before they're assessed at 5.65%.
I still don't understand.
Okay, let's say I have $120,000 and I'm a parent. But because I'm married and because of my age, I'm allowed to have, as per the chart that's in the training manual, $20,000. Anything I have over $20,000 is assessed at 5.65%. So let's say I have $120,000 that are in assessable assets. I will be expected to pay $5,650 more before I qualify for financial aid.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, the question I asked, I don't know if you heard me, on a non-qualified annuity, instead of putting it into an IRA, you put it into a non-qualified annuity. Is that going to count or no?
And the FAFSA, non-qualified annuities are not counted. On CSS profile, non-qualified annuities are counted.
What?
Well, I haven't
Say
got
that again?
but I'll say it again. In the FAFSA, whether annuity is qualified or non-qualified, it is not counted.
So, oh, perfect.
Those are for FAFSA schools. For the schools that require the institutional methodology, which I have not discussed yet, non-qualified annuities are counted. But cash value of life insurance still is not.
Keep going. We're going to try to catch up.
All right. Okay, so the student has an income protection allowance of $6,420. Anything there and over that, 50 cents of every dollar gets added onto their EFC because the EFC is made up of parent and student contribution. So typically, your best bet with grandparents who have 529s for their grandkids are they should pay off all the student costs the last year of college.
That's clever.
So we went over now the federal assessment in income and assets for parent and student. Now we're going to go over the institutional assessment for parent and student.
Steve, what percentage of schools fall under each?
About 10% of the schools are CSS profile. Those are the better schools in the nation. And if the rest are just federal methodology. The FAFSA has to be filed for every school. Only 400 require the CSS profile. But as we go through the training, you'll see that the schools that provide 100% remaining need that require the institutional methodology still provide a better aid package than a school that just provides the federal methodology. When you're ready, I'm going to start going over the institutional methodology.
So my concern in going through here, is that once an hour-long presentation is made to a group of people at a school setting, and some of those people want to come in and have a conversation, the depth of knowledge required to actually have some kind of meaningful conversation with people, I don't got that. So, I can have a form filled out and I can show them how to move assets around, but as far as answering these questions, I don't know how to do that.
Well, you can be asking them ballpark questions. When you ask them how much you have in retirement, they basically know how much they have. Even if they're up by $10,000, even if they're up by $50,000 because they have $500,000 in there, that's not really going to affect it that much.
I know where you're going. I'll address it at the end. Okay, all right. Keep going.
Okay.
I'm right where you are.
I'm a dumbass, so I got to
put me in there with you.
The institutional methodology will count the equity in your home. It will count non-qualified annuities. But it will not count your existing retirement monies or cash value of life insurance.
What page are you on in this, to get the information that you're giving us right now? What page is it, 1.5 something?
Well, I can go through page section 1-4 with you. However, that'll probably take about 45 minutes plus.
That's okay.
Okay. So now let's look at, if you want to go through the training manual, let's look at page 1-4-2. Through the sample report. Look at 1-4-2.
Gotcha.
Retirement funds are not assessed, okay? Okay, so as I said, retirement funds are not assessed. Now the next line. Any pre-tax dollar contributions to retirement funds in the base year will be added back to your adjusted gross income and assessed as income. Now, when we're talking about assets in the student's name. Students in the federal methodology have no income protection allowance. When I say income protection allowance, that's the minimum a student is allowed to have before they're assessed. The student has no asset protection allowance. So of that $20,000 that the student has, they can be assessed at 20% on that, or $4,000 every single year. Let's say the
So that
parent,
adds on their contribution requirement by 4,000.
right. So every year,
Adding up.
so every year the student goes, their EFC they have to pay $4,000 more. So let's say the student ends up spending 5 years in college, they spend $20,000 more to save $20,000. If they're W-2, there's nothing we can really do. If they work for a company, maybe a company can put off their bonuses until, but I don't want to go into that spectrum of what can be done because it all depends on what on the income source that the parent is getting, where the parent is getting their money from. If we're talking about W-2 though, $70,000 is $70,000. The student earned $2,000. They're allowed to earn up to $6,400 before they're assessed in the Department of Education formula at 50 cents on every dollar. And I would advise you when you're talking to families, even before you do anything, I would advise you to go through the sample report with them, just so they see what they can be getting. Now, parents have $10,000 in cash savings and checking. They have $100 in passbook savings. Just know that all the money that they have that are being counted are assessed at 5.65%, above their asset protection allowance. Anything the student has above $0 is assessed at 20%.
He's reading that shit right
That's why I'm going through these again with you. So one day, just go through what's assessed and what's not assessed.
here.
On the spreadsheet.
I don't know if we got that stuff or not. How much of the money goes towards the contribution? Pay for college.
Randy, I hear you.
Hi, Ron.
All right, so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to start over the assessed assets.
I have a question, Steve.
Yes.
Steve, everything we're going over right now, all these percentages and whether it's federal or institution, we have to have all this stuff memorized in order to do a good seminar?
Absolutely not.
Feel a little better.
I know.
Yeah, me too.
The reason why these things go so fast to begin with is because it's so much information to absorb, it's hard to really be able to ask a question. And when we get asked,
Randy, let's get through all this, and then let's get together and talk and do an assessment of what we heard today, okay?
You know.
and typically you don't have each other to talk to, you'd be calling me back and asking me questions.
You might not want to answer your phone.
That's all right. That's what I do all day is I spend on the phone.
Okay.
It's not a problem. Okay, earlier I talked about asset protection allowance. Now this is a page 1-5-1, or page 33 of the profile report that I'm going through. The asset protection allowance is dependent on the oldest parent's age and marital status. In this case, these parents are allowed to have $20,000 because the oldest parent's 51 and they're married. They're allowed to have $20,200 before they're assessed at 5.65%.
Steve, I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, the 401k contributions, are those a part of the retirement accounts that you mentioned they count against you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Whether you show them on your W-2s or whether they show on your tax return, it's still added on. Okay, now I'm going to go through an example here. Well, a little bit of an example. These parents are allowed to have These parents have, including their home equity, $210,000. Let's say we're using federal methodology, and their home equity is not counted. Let's say they have an asset protection allowance of $20,200. They're being assessed at let's say $140,000 of assets at 5.65%. Throwing a calculator. That means they're going to be expected to pay, just on their assets alone, $8,000 more per year before they qualify for financial aid. Now let's say we add on the $4,000 for the student's contribution. So before they qualify for aid every year, if they have not moved any of their assets around, they're paying $12,000 more each year before they qualify for financial aid. Over 4 years, they're spending almost $50,000 out of pocket additional before they qualify for financial aid. Now, this is a parent who's between 40. These are for parents who are between 40 and 60 years old. They have amassed this amount of money, whether the grandparents have died, or an aunt or uncle has left them money, or they come into some money somehow or other. Their monies aren't all where they should be. They've been accumulating this money over years. They don't even know where their money should be. And this is where I have to tell you that it's not all about repositioning for financial aid. You're going to be running into a lot of parents between the ages of 40 and 60 who don't even know what's going on with their money, and who you're going to actually be rolling over into better investments. So it's not only about repositioning assets into insurance and annuities, it's about actually doing IRA rollovers as well, or 401k rollovers. But anyway, in this case, they're going to be paying almost $50,000 more per year before they qualify for financial aid. Now, what does that mean? That's on the next page. 161. This is the before and after. This is institutional before, and this is institutional afterwards. The initial family contribution is contribution from income and assets from the parent and student. The after is contributions not from income, as from income alone, and not assets. So if their assets were not counted, they'd be able to reduce their EFC by around $11,000 per year. Whether it's federal or institutional, around $11,000 per year. We're not telling them to move any monies. We're just showing them the if they had it, what they would have to pay. We're not making any recommendations. If they have an additional student in college, you take that expected family contribution and you divide it by the number of students in college, and that's what each one is going to be expected to pay before they qualify for aid. So it's better to have more kids in college at the same time, because the ESC stays the same, but it gets divided by the number of students going at the same time. Okay.
Go back to that, would you please?
Beg your pardon?
Go back to your report. Go back up a little. I want to go back to the page of before and after.
Sure.
171. I mean 171.
161, before and after.
Okay, well, so here's my point. My point is, you have a report that they fill out. We collect the data. We put it in this report, and this report comes back and says, if the changes were to be made, this is what could happen. Is that fair?
Yes.
So we don't know if they will or they won't, but what we did is we collected the data, and you took a snapshot of what they have. You took a look at, if I did this or if I did that, this is how it could change the picture. Fair?
Fair.
So the report really does the selling.
By inference. By inference.
And we just have to make sure that we're collecting honest, accurate information. Fair?
That is fair.
Yeah. And so the purpose of all this is for this reason right here. This is why we're learning this. This is why we're going through all this. Because the truth is, if I could show a family how to reduce that from 15 down to 5, I earned my way. Fair?
Half fair.
Okay.
We're not done with the report yet. You're halfway there. We're not done with the report yet.
All right. All right, well, get me all the way there.
All right. Earlier in the training, I said we needed pages 4 and 5 and pages 182 through 6, right? Page 37 through 41 is what we need. This is the line-by-line FAFSA answer sheet. We developed this from what they provide on their questionnaire and what we figure they need in regards to schools. Notice on page 1-8-6, we list 6 schools here. We list up to 8 or 9 schools that they can list that we can send the FAFSA to. But it's very important to be familiar with what we're asking on. We need to make sure, this is on page 1-8-2 or page 37, we need to make sure the student's last name, date of birth, and social security number all match. If they don't match, the FAFSA will be rejected. They will not get any federal aid. And of course, you should be putting initials here on each of these pages. Now, let me ask you guys a question. If I'm allowed to have no money before I'm assessed at 20%, how much should these 2 lines read? Where my cash savings and checking, 41 and 42. If my asset protection allowance is 0, what should those 2 lines read? Shouldn't they read $0?
We don't understand the question.
If I have no asset protection allowance, how much should those 2 assets, and I'm assessed at 20% on anything that I have, how much should my cash savings and checking and my total net worth of investments be? How about 0?
0. Yeah.
Right? There's supposed to be 0 there, right?
Right.
Right.
Now that's the parents inferring. If you say to them, if you have no asset protection allowance, how much should you have in these 2 boxes? They're going to say 0, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay, so that's the inference. They're inferring that they should be 0. Now for these questions here, what do the parents have in cash savings and checking, and what do they have in their assets? How much do these equal?
0.
20,200, right? Their asset protection allowance. Now, before I go there, though, we have to make sure, though, that on page 1-8-4 or page 29 of the PDF, you have to make sure that last names, dates of birth, and social security numbers match up. This is the father. And the next page is the mother.
Okay.
And these 2 should add up to no more than 20,200 in this particular case. Whatever the parent's asset protection allowance is what they should be having here. And the last page that you're going to be sending to us is going to be them listing the schools they want the FAFSA sent to. So when you meet with the clients now and up until September, you're going to be sending us pages 4 and 5 of this report and pages 1-8-4 through 1-8-2 through 1-8-6 from each report so we can file the FAFSA. Do you have any questions before I move on to the second section? If you do, you can always email them to me or you can always call me and ask me.
Okay.
This is not the last time we'll be speaking, trust me. Okay, so step 1 is understanding how to get into the good schools and understanding financial aid and what you need to do to get your financial aid as well as possible.
Stephen, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How much longer are you going to be on today's session?
Could I make it 20 minutes?
Okay. I know we just blocked a certain amount of time. Okay, go ahead. Move on.
All right. So section 1 is reducing your expected family contribution and understanding what you need to do in order to get into the better schools out there. Step 2 is actually what you need to do to get into the better schools. I'm going to ignore Goodbye, Better Buy, Best Buy. I graduated as an electrical engineer. Just show me the numbers. Earlier today, I had shown you a formula. The cost of attendance minus EFC equals remaining need, right? Now we're going to apply that to actual colleges, okay? I'm going to do a little bit of Arizona State University bashing. Don't be angry with me, okay? Arizona State University, out of state, costs $36,517. That's a lot of money for a state school. They use the federal methodology, so their EFC adjusted, that's EFC from income alone, is $5,000. They left with a remaining of $31,482. Now that's the formula, right? The cost of attendance minus the EFC is remaining need. Well, Arizona State University only provides 71% of that $31,000. So you're going to come with $22,000. 9,000 of which is in work, study, and loans. Basically, the first year is going to be $5,500 in loans and $3,000 in work, study. Somewhere around there. And they'll be given $13,188 in gift aid. This is from the numbers that are provided by the school themselves, okay? These numbers here, 71%, 41%, and 59%. Just so you know, rule of thumb, state schools provide between 50 and 70% of remaining need. 50 and 70%. Of that, though, typically about 40% is in work, study, and loans, and 60% is in gifts. If they decide to go to Arizona State University and not reposition anything, it will cost them $21,700. Still, it's less than $36,000. So they filed their FAFSA, they got gift aid, and they got some loans. It's going to cost them $21,000. If they had repositioned their assets, it would cost them $14,000. Total EFC savings of $7,500. Whoops. Right? Isn't it annoying? Okay, $30,000 over the course of 4 years is what they're going to be saving if they reposition assets. That's not bad. But now let's look at Rice University in Texas.
Hey,
We've got one question.
So when you say EFC, say initial out-of-pocket and adjusted out-of-pocket and so forth, but still expected family contribution is a cash contribution, and somehow the savings equal loans, gifts, so forth, right? So there could be additional loans to pay back over and above the expected family contribution, right?
$5,500 the first year, yes.
So we're just trying to minimize the out-of-pocket and maximize the loans and grants and so forth.
We're trying to maximize the gift aid. So let's take a look at Rice University and see what I'm talking about. Rice University, $56,000 a year. $20,000 more than ASU. $20,000 more. If their assets were not counted, they'd be expected to pay $6,645, with Rice providing, yes, you see it and it's true, $49,658. They're providing 100% of that $49,658 because they have endowment funds. Beg your pardon?
No, I see where the math is below it now. the amounts on top of the math is below it. I got it now. I'm a little slow. Got it.
Okay. Well, what they're going to be getting in work study and loans, only 11% of that 100, only 11% of that 100 is in work study and loans, 5,462. It's less than the 9,600 that's being offered by Arizona State University. They're getting gift aids of $44,196. I'm telling you, this is really the absolute truth. I know it looks like it's unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. If they decided not to listen to you, if they threw out the whole first section of the report and they said, screw it, we're not moving any monies, what's it going to cost us now? It's going to cost you $17,000. But how much is Rice costing? ASU is costing $21,000. ASU actually costs $4,000 more than Rice if they were to not reposition. If they were to reposition, it would cost them $6,645, which if we make the comparison, it's $14,000. It's about $7,000 difference if they reposition assets.
I want to throw something in real quick, okay? And what I want to throw in is, this is a real reason for somebody to do something, okay, by repositioning. But in my mind, what is better than that? Repositioning with better returns. So just because repositioning becomes the issue. But what if by repositioning, I improve those assets for you?
I don't disagree with you. And net is if you're not...
That becomes a big bet.
Let's say somebody's getting a 14% growth on a stock. Let's just say they're getting 14% annual rate of return. They'd have to make at least 20% on the annual rate of return in order to break even, in order to still earn that 14%. So you're absolutely right. If you lead them into a better investment to begin with, who cares about repositioning? I'm still getting a better rate of return. Okay, so I told you the rule of thumb. State schools typically provide between 50 and 70% of remaining need. 50 and 70% of remaining need. The prestigious universities that require the CSS profile that use the institutional methodology typically provide between 80 and 100% of remaining need. And statistically speaking, parents who make more money expect to send their kids to better colleges. They expect to send their kids to the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year colleges.
Steve, so in the absence of your program and us and so forth, how would people actually get this information? I mean, just for where does this information reside, and how does one find it if they don't find us and or you?
They have to start really, really early. They'd have to go by other people's. They'd have to do a lot of research. And even if you know what the formula is, you still have to find the schools that provide the greatest amount of remaining need. And even then, how are you going to know to reposition assets? If you're going to reposition assets, then I don't know about you. Have you ever tried buying an annuity online? You cannot buy an annuity online. You have to be referred to an agent. So they can't just go in. So even if they found out all this stuff, they still have to go to an agent to reposition their assets.
Oh, okay.
You can't buy a whole life policy without dealing with an agent. You can't buy an annuity without dealing with an agent. Okay, so now you see, so this section I call the Can I Afford to Go chapter. And you see why. Because you can go to a much better, so this is what happens. Everybody in the barbershop wants to agree on the same thing. Everybody in the beauty parlor wants to agree on the same thing. However, they might all be agreeing on the same wrong thing. They might all just agree that they need to send their kid to a state college, whereas I just showed you that it costs less to go to a prestigious private school than it does to go to a state school. And that's why after we show the parents this, after the affiliate like you shows the parents the schools, that's why students come up with other schools for us to run the report. Because now that they know, they're willing to forego a school they said they loved for another school. Okay. How much more time do you guys have? You have another 10 minutes, or should we end it now?
10 minutes.
Okay.
A minute.
All right, good. So that's the Can I Afford to Go chapter. The next one is the Can I Get In chapter. This is the section where you have the families. This is section 2-3, where you're going to have the families. You're going to have the families take a look and see where the student qualifies to go to. If the student doesn't qualify to get into a school, if the student is way overqualified, you might not want to even send an application to that school. You might not want to even go and visit that school. So this is the Can I Get In chapter. I'll let you go over that with families if you want. Or you can let them go over it. Next to go over is the quality of education, 2-4. This is the 2-2 is Can I Get In. 2-3 is, 2-2 is Can I Afford It. 2-3 is Can I Get In. And 2-4 is Do I Want to Go There. I'm just going to show you one very quick issue here. Once again, I'm picking on Arizona State. 17% graduate within 4 years. To me, that means that 83 kids out of 100 are not graduating in 4 years. That's not really a good number. Sorry, it's page 4. It's page 60 or page 2-4-1. So the question is, do I not only want to pay more for my kid to go to a school that's not as good? Do I want to pay more to go to a school that's going to take the student more money to go, more time to go, and therefore cost me more money? Or do I want to go to a school where the students are graduating in 4 years or less, or 4 years, or just around 4 years? Now I'm going to go to a very important section of the report. So just remember, 2-2 is Can I Afford It? 2-3 is Can I Get In? 2-4 is Do I Actually Want to Go There? This page 63 might seem like a very small section or a very small chapter, but this page is very important. This is a page that has to do with the loans, the Parent Loan for Undergraduate Students. PLUS, Parent Loan for Undergraduate Students. You should check out each of these websites to see which is offering the best interest rates. Like I said, when you're looking at $150,000 in debt, even 1% of that, it could be thousands of dollars. I'm going to go over one last thing here now. Actually, two last things. You need to memorize all the federal programs. I'm not going to go over each one with you, but you need to memorize each of the federal programs out there, the Pell Grant, the CIOG, the Work Study. I'm just not going to read it through. Perkins Loans, Stafford Loans. You need to understand what aid is available out there from the government. Let's see here. We don't really worry about awards administered by a college because typically that first year out, the student is getting merit-based aid. It's aid that's based solely on the student's scores on the ACT or SAT and on the GPA. Almost every aid package you see is going to be in regards to merit-based scholarships. And if you do look on the school's website, like if you were to go to Arizona State University main campus, or just Arizona State University, and look at all those scholarships out there, you will see that hardly any scholarship will apply to a student. They're so specialized. And for example, what is this right here? ASU Parent Association Cantor Ben Kapadia Scholarship. I bet you have to be associated with somebody in order to get that. Okay. Let me go through one last thing, and then Deborah told me I should tell you something else, but let's go this first. Outside scholarships. Earlier today, somebody asked about outside scholarships. A student can go to a website called fastweb.com. They have over 400,000 scholarships on that website. Everybody and their grandmother is looking to get on the website to sign up for scholarships. They typically pay the money, $250, $500, around that nature. Like I said, everybody goes for them. What I did one time years ago is I signed up for fastweb.com, and I'm still getting emails asking me if I want to work part-time at Walmart or McDonald's. They can feel free to do it, but I want to give you one warning. If a school is providing 100% of remaining need, any outside scholarship a student gets, the school will absorb. I ran into a student who got $8,000 worth of outside scholarships, and I called up the school, and the school said, "That's great, but out of the $8,000 that she got, we're already giving her $7,000, so we're going to keep $7,000 and give her $1,000 scholarship." So if a school is providing 100% of remaining need, outside scholarships really don't work. There's one last thing I want to go over here before we're done. We have 3 more minutes before I'm 10 minutes over what I should be. When you have your initial customers, okay, you had just talked earlier about just getting somebody into a better investment. Well, you have customers already, I'm sure. You have existing clients. Why don't you send out a mailer to your existing clients, such as we have just contacted with the largest. Well, here's an example. Hello, we've just contracted with the largest college financial aid company in the country. If you're a parent that has a sophomore, junior, or senior in high school and you are in a quandary as to how you're going to pay for your child's college education, I can assist you. Now, you know from this whole entire training, through this training here, that we went through a lot of things that parents don't know. So you're absolutely in a better position now to assist them in understanding how they can get money for college. So I'm just going to repeat this. You will find a letter that you send to customers. After the initial training, here we go. After the initial training, you should email this letter to existing customers and follow up with them. Once they contact you back, set a one-on-one appointment with them, explain to them the promise, of which they will pay $16.95.
Which letter are you talking about, Steve? I'm sorry.
Beg your pardon?
Which letter are you talking about?
I guess I'm talking to a letter that's going to be emailed to all of you.
Okay.
Yeah. Alex.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's coming to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So this is a letter that should be sent to your customers. Remember at the beginning of the training, I went over how each point of this could be worth $16.95. I would do the same thing when you contact your customers. Explain to them how each one of these points have saved families thousands of dollars, and that you can absolutely assist them. And of course, warm regards, your name and phone number and email address. And how many of you already have existing customers? All of you, correct?
Yes.
What was that? What did you say, Steve?
And I'm sorry. And how many? Sorry about this. I got a little disjointed for a second. How many of you believe you have customers who have college-bound students?
All of us do.
Yeah.
Tons, right?
Okay.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Alex. I have a question for you. Did you receive the letter that we had attached? Did you receive this letter yet?
I haven't gotten anything in my email yet, no.
All right, so make sure you get in your email, and then you can spread it out to everybody. And then,
Okay.
because if you're not, because you should really be cutting your teeth on existing clients.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So sorry. So that was the last thing I was going to follow up with. That was the last bit of information I want to give you is to follow up with your existing clients first, and then you can call me up and you can bounce them off of me. You can bounce your ideas off of me before you speak with them.
Okay.
Sorry, that was somebody shooting me lines. All right. So basically, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, I want to give you my email address and my phone number. My email address is info, info, at 123college, info at 123college.com. That goes to me. It goes to everybody, actually, but it goes to me. Info at 123college.com, and my number is 888-737-4123.
4123.
888-737-4123. And
4123.
4123.
Gotcha.
And everybody should have received the an email with the PowerPoint presentation, the 6 slides to be customized. Did you all receive that?
Yes.
That's the slide itself is 23 pages, 23 slides long. But we want you to put down 6 schools that's going to get name recognition in your area, 6 colleges and universities that get name recognition in your area. And please let me know, how long do you think it'll take for you to get back to me those 6 slides?
I think we're trying to get everyone's back to you today.
All right, so you keep me busy.
I think Randy, I think those guys might have already gotten them back, and us Kansas City people might need to get them back to you still.
Okay.
And until James comes back,
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like everybody's on track then. And like I said, you have my contact information. I know there's a lot that goes on in this training, but I just want you to know that I'm here for you anytime you have a question.
Okay. Hey, Randy,
Yes, sir.
when we hang up, he instigated this call. I want you to call. Can you guys call back in and let's talk real quick?
To our office, Randy?
Call our office.
Sure.
Let me ask you
We're
a
all
question.
sitting here. I just want to just have a follow-up meeting of what we did today.
Yeah, do you have a number where we can all call into? Because we got 3 different offices.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
913
Uh-huh.
948 9480.
Okay.
And then there's a PIN number. Let me just double check. 55.
Up to 2 o'clock.
Went from 2 to 1.
And then the PIN number for you, Randy, is 425128.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Okay.
Steve, thank you so much.
Out of here to
All
11.
right, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. And if you'd like, get together and let me know when you want to go to another presentation like this. Or another
Okay, great.
session. Let me know.
You only have till 1.
All right, thank you. I'm going to end.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to end the webinar now. It's going to be cut off.
Bye.
Okay, bye.